Thor's always been that one who's definitely the prettiest in the group, but it's like nobody trusts him to do something by himself.
You have no idea what you're dealing with.
Shakespeare in the Park?
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
He's practically the Fred of the Avengers who gets all the ladies, but it's really everyone else around him who's moving the plot along. I mean, just looking back at his older movies, they would surround him with bigger actors. They had like 5 storylines stuffed into one movie, and when its sequel became the lowest grossing of the bunch, they practically just benched the man for a year, and he had to rely on roles like this.
You hear that?
No.
Exactly, it's perfect silence.
But this new movie changes things, and since people like numbers, I want to break down the 3 ways that Marvel has fixed Thor. Now, I know that there are like 4 of you out there who genuinely, truly adore the first Thor and Thor the Dark World, and that's good. Somebody has to love those films. But when it comes to how they were received overall in general audiences, in my opinion, I don't think they were the most entertaining or the most impacting out of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe films that we've gotten. Now you may be asking, what in the world is this kid talking about, this lobby boy looking guy? Why do I even care what he has to say? And the truth is, you don't have to. But I'm sure that you do care what Marvel has to say about it. And that goes to step 1, which is Marvel learning from their own mistakes. We may not see it all the time since they're always getting showered with praise, and there's definitely a lot of people who believe that they can do no wrong. But they still, amongst all of those accolades that they get, question, what can we do better? For example, remember when Edgar Wright's Ant-Man fell through because of creative differences, and the same thing happened with Ava DuVernay for Black Panther because of creative differences. But after seeing the second Guardians, I don't know what possible crazy creative differences there could have been that go beyond that. To me, that's them learning to work with directors better and letting them be creative. That way they avoid things like Thor 2 director Alan Taylor calling his experience with them wrenching, or how Joss Whedon got so fed up, my man's now with DC.
I'm very surprised with the kind of jokes and content that Marvel have let me put in this movie. I'm very surprised, and you'll be surprised.
And so Marvel hired Taika Waititi following that route of taking indie directors so they can make these big blockbusters a little bit more personal with their touch. And not only did they let him add his mojo to it, but remember that Ultron Vision scene with Thor that was supposed to like be this big setup for something? That's no more. Thor 2's ending with the big Loki twist resolved in minutes in Ragnarok. In other words, they cut back a bunch of the things that they had planned before they crashed, burned, and failed, and instead went the more lighthearted route, which brings us to number 2, and that's the comedy. There's no doubt a majority of this movie is the actors ad-libbing.
That what you guys...
I would say
95.
95%.
The words were probably, just me yelling words at you?
Yeah.
And while I've heard some people call it lazy, I think it brings a sort of intimacy to a big studio project that we think is super strict and pretty much just formulaic, and makes it feel more at ease. I look at Deadpool's crude fourth wall breaking humor, which I think is great, and Guardian's absurd jokes, which are fantastic, but to me, my favorite type of comedy has always been that buddy-style duo, where it's just 2 actors trying to make the other person laugh, and the beauty of this movie is that they actually keep the frames where they break character.
I can tell, and I know the audience can as well, that the actors and the filmmakers are having a good time.
Yeah.
Truth is, Chris Hemsworth has no business being as funny as he is when the man already looks like a god. But when you hear what Hemsworth himself stated to Feige, that he felt like he was dying, like he was in handcuffs, that he was so frustrated and bored, you realize that he wasn't even loving the character.
I was really kind of a little frustrated and bored with myself and what I was doing as the character pre this film, and felt like we needed to change it up in a big way and have more humor and kind of do away with everything we knew, you know, because you get trapped into trying to hold this continuity and then it just becomes predictable.
And so my dude literally took comedic roles to pretty much prove that he had it in him. Chief Feige pulled the Freedom Writers and actually listened to him, hired Taika, who brought half of New Zealand with him, and boom, the results speak for themselves. On top of that, they also got this little loophole to get Hulk in there.
So Marvel brought me in before we shot this, and they said, if you had a standalone Hulk movie, what would it be? And I said, it'd be this and this and this, and then this happened, and it ended like that. And they said, how about we take that and we stretch that over the next 3 movies as your character and Hulk character arc? And I said, that's great. And that's what we've been doing. So I will get a standalone Hulk movie, and we will work around Universal, and we'll do it in 3 movies instead of 1 movie. So take that, Universal. Now what are you gonna do? They'll probably try to sue us now.
Finally, there's the heroes aspect. And because I don't want to be a villain, this is where I have to tell you, spoilers. Go watch the movie. See, there's no doubt it's a comedy. They learned to lighten up the character so it wasn't taking itself too seriously. But the beauty of it is that they didn't ruin the character. Even though they broke his hammer. Even though they cut Thor's hair. Even though they blew up this man's world. He's still Thor. They stripped back the most aesthetically pleasing hero to show that all of those things that we focused on aren't the things that make him a superhero, but his actions. Like Odin states in the movie, Asgard isn't a place, but a people. And sometimes you need to tear down in order to rebuild. And I believe that's the same thing the filmmakers have done with Thor. It's a movie that has redirected the character. It's a movie that gets a 10 out of 10 when it comes to diversity. It's a movie that is obviously lighthearted because it's setting up the heartbreak that's to come. But out of all the cool things that Marvel has been able to do to fix Thor, I stand behind this as being the coolest thing I've ever seen come out of a superhero movie.
So we had a young kid, a Make-A-Wish kid, on set that day. And in between the takes, I was talking with him and come back and forth, and he goes, you know, you should say he's a friend from work. So
Really?
that young
That's
man,
right.
the young man who I keep in contact with.
That's cool.
We know each other. He's a friend from work. Oh, come on.